Good morning. As Gina said, my name is Mary Jane Souls, MJ, to most people, and I, along with my husband Gary right there, chaired a committee for a Preparedness Expo in Marion County.
Can everybody hear? I mean, do we need the mic or something?
I have a very big mouth.
Okay.
Can everybody hear me?
Okay.
I've never been a quiet person. Okay, so and it was back in September. It was in Fairmont for Marion County. Well, actually, it was in Whitehall. I keep forgetting we have a Whitehall now. You know, about 2 inches away from Fairmont. So it was. We moved it to the Middletown Mall, and that's basically what I'm here today to speak to you about. Is this expo that we had, how it all came about, how we planned it, and who was involved in it. And perhaps encourage you to replicate this expo in your community. I just realized I'm probably preaching to the choir here, you know. But perhaps if you can't do this yourself, you may encourage someone in your community to have one of these expos. I feel that now's the time. People are interested. Preparedness seems to be big. I'm not sure why. I don't know if it's fear, you know. People have it on their minds. They have emergencies and disasters. West Virginia, we have bad weather coming up, power outages, roads are bad. You know, terrorism. People are thinking about terrorism nowadays that we didn't think about years ago. The new, someone mentioned Ebola, you know, now they're worried about that. So I really feel that the time is right if you are interested in doing one of these expos in your community. You know, this just came about by a little church in Fairmont that wanted to do something to help their community and held this in their gymnasium the first year. You know, our church, it was the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, and it was their 100th year anniversary in Fairmont of that church. Now, the church has been around for hundreds of years, but 100 years of that particular church in Fairmont. So we were performing 100 acts of service, 100 hours, probably. We might have got a little bit more out of that because a lot of them took more than an hour, but we were doing 100 acts of service, and our bishop came forth and he said, you know, we had special church services and special dinners, and Gary and I were on the committee for this 100th year anniversary of our church, and our bishop said, you know, we need to do a service project. We need to do something big for our community. You know, we're helping ourselves, we're helping each other a lot, and he said, I'd like to do a bigger service project for our community. And Gary there raised his hand and he said, you know, why don't we do a preparedness fair? And we thought that was great. And here's why. Our church has been big on preparedness forever. Our church leaders have always taught us to be prepared. They've taught us about food storage and water storage, and 72-hour kits, and financial preparedness. So frankly, we thought maybe we had 2 or 3 experts in our own church that could share their knowledge with the community, you know, on being prepared. The church was so big, they had their own Provident Living website. It's at lds.org if you ever want to get on, click on Provident Living, and it's a whole website on self-reliance. And the church has their own food storage warehouse. And I'm only telling you that to let you know that how they have taught us preparedness over the year. And it's really what brought it on. So when he said that, we thought, well, that's great. We think we have something to offer the community there. So the bishop said, well, who's going to chair this? It's going to be a big event. It's going to take a long time. Who are we going to get to do this? And my husband, again, raised his hand and said, my wife will do it. That's the honest to goodness truth. And I'll tell you, I have never let him forget that. That's how Gary Souls became the co-chair for this committee. I made him be right there beside me and work with me. We had started preparing it for a few months, and then our church joined an organization in Fairmont called the Greater Fairmont Council of Churches. Now, this is an organization that has representatives from each church in the community. You may have one in your community, and basically it's a lot of preachers and pastors and ministers and priests, and the churches are all represented, and they meet once a month and talk over the activities for their church and what they can do to help the community. Well, it just so happened the first meeting that our bishop went to, they were writing out their goals and objectives for the year, and one of their goals was preparedness. They wanted to teach their congregations about preparedness. And of course, our bishop raised his hand and said, hey, just so happens, my church is already doing this. We're already working on a little preparedness fair. And if you'd like to come and join us, it would be great. And they wanted to teach their congregations on it. So that's how it became a collaboration between the LDS Church and the Greater Fairmont Council of Churches. It basically belongs to the Greater Fairmont Council of Churches now. It's presented by them. The first year, Gary and I it was me and thee, wasn't it, dear? We were the whole committee. Now, the second year, last year, it was wonderful. I had a committee. I didn't know how to act. I probably didn't even utilize them right because I was so excited I had a committee. I could have had them do more, but I'm not used to having help in a committee. Mike Walker was on that committee. He told me not to mention his name, but I'm not afraid of him. He said, don't mention, but Mike was on the committee in the health department and some council churches members and some members from the community in our church, so it was so much nicer. Just a quick overview, honey, if you want to go to about, if you could, please. You know, our first year, all we wanted to do was simply raise awareness to the community on preparedness, okay? Teach them a little bit of self-reliance. Or at least on the 72-hour preparedness kits. Now, you know, if you do one in your community, you don't have to start with something big. You could have your community just start with the 72-hour preparedness kits. You could get online. Ready.gov, West Virginia, .gov has it. FEMA, everybody has what it takes to do these kits. But you know how people like hands-on. If you could get them in a class and teach them, start with that. You know the KISS principle, keep it simple, stupid. Well, we didn't do that. We complicated it, stupid. Okay, so we did cover several topics the first year. We did, you know, cover like the 72-hour kits and food storage and water storage and documents that are important for you to keep. We still had a diverse amount of subjects that we covered. And when we decided what subjects we wanted, we just started making phone calls to people that we thought would be subject matter experts on that. Now, that's the hardest part of ever having an expo, is your first year. It's making all those contacts, finding out who they are, getting their names, getting their emails or the phone numbers, getting them to commit, and then getting them to keep that commitment. That's your hardest part because, well, it just is your hardest part your first year. The second year, it's much simpler. You know, in the middle of all this, Gary said, you know, why don't you call Chris McIntyre? Now, don't tell him this, but I said, well, now, who's Chris McIntyre? I had no idea who he was, and Gary said, well, he's the guy that's over, you know, the disaster. He's Homeland Security in Marion County. He can probably be a big help to you. Well, I'm here to tell you, if you have an expo in your community, get your county and local officials involved in it because they were a great help. I called him and he said, hey, it just so happens. I'm having a meeting Thursday night. All the emergency personnel will be here. We'll have a meeting Thursday, and he invited me to it. He said, talk about what you're doing, run it by them, see how they feel. So that was a blessing. I went there and there was Homeland Security and the 911 people and the Red Cross, I think it was, or Salvation Army and the health department and the fire department and the police departments. What could I have asked for? So when I walked out of that meeting, I had most of my contact names and the emails right there. So, I mean, that was just a wonderful help. I think when you plan an expo, the three most important things are your location and your promotion and your advertising and your exhibits, of course, your vendors. Our first year, we had it at our church, in the gymnasium. We were one of the few churches in Fairmont that had a gymnasium, and we thought it was our expo because we started it first, and it was our church doing it, and we wanted our church to be used. Now, I'm not going to lie to you. Our bishop said he wanted us to get out in the community and get to know people of other faiths, do something for them, get them to know us a little bit better. You know, we all differ in religions, but in a community, we're a whole. We're all one. So that's basically, you know, one of the reasons we wanted to get started on this. But we had it in our church. It was only a few hundred yards off the interstate. We thought it was pretty convenient for people to get to. Our second year, this year, we had to move to the Middletown Mall, and quite frankly, get this, it went so big that the first year we went from 27 exhibits to 52. It went so big. And I know, I'm going to mention you again, don't you get mad at me. I can remember at that meeting at Chris McIntyre, Mike Walker saying, are you prepared? And I thought, Well, yes, I have food storage, water storage, and I have a bug out bag, I'm fine. He said, no, he said, are you prepared for this to go viral? Because people are into preparedness and this could go big. And I remember thinking, whatever. That's what I thought. I thought, oh, it's not going to go that big. But I'm telling you, by the second year, you have people calling you, wanting to participate in it. 27 to 52 exhibits. We were just shocked. When you pick your location, make sure that, you might have food, you might need water, electricity. You wouldn't believe it. It was a preparedness expo, and we were trying to teach people how to be prepared, especially if they didn't have electricity, but they all needed electricity to do that. So we had to have a lot of power there. A lot of people needed Wi-Fi. You have to take all that into consideration when you're doing that. Most of your money, we didn't have a big budget. I would be embarrassed to tell you what my budget was, but you go with what you've got. So promotion, if you look on the back of that handout I gave you, the only reason I wrote that promotion advertising down is, most of your money goes toward that except your prizes. You have to have prizes at an expo, because if you have free things, they will come. Okay? People like winning things. They get free prizes. But I wrote that down on the back of the flyer because look at the free things you can do. We had no money for budget. A couple of them cost. Social media, we all know how big that is today. The web page here. Gary said I could tell you this. He said that was very easy to do. He never did a web page in his life. He got in the first week, we had 800 to 1,000 hits on it. I'm not sure when it hit 1,000, but we know it hit over 800 the first week. So you can advertise free. That didn't cost anything to do that web page. Facebook and Twitter. That's the thing nowadays. And I thought, I look at pictures of everybody's cats and dogs and religious views and political views and their lifestyle views. I thought, I'm putting my expo flyer on that Facebook. So we did that periodically. The week before, we bombarded Facebook advertising this. City and town websites. Every town in Marion County, except for one, had a website. So I got on the internet, looked up their contact people, got with them, and they all posted it on their websites free. The readywestvirginia.gov, bless you, Gina, she put it on there for us. I don't know if your county has a visitor center, but Marion County does. They have a website. They put it on for us. The Homeland Security people put it on their website for us. I went to council meetings. Newspapers are very expensive to advertise in, but there's still free things you could get in a newspaper to advertise your event. The editor's column. In our town in Fairmont, it's the John Veazey column. And he has graciously put in articles both years for us, big articles on our expo. So that was a big help. TV, you can't afford to advertise on TV, but a week before they'll come and interview you and put your event there and announce to people. So if you have an organization in your town, mine was greater, the Council of Churches. What was nice about that? They each had a congregation. So they had a captive audience. So we sent them inserts. They put in their flyers. They announced it to their congregation. We even went and did a couple presentations to their churches telling them about it. Banners. In Fairmont, you can't put a banner up until 2 weeks before an event. And there's only 2 places in town to put them, and one was taken. So we went with one banner. Yeah, can you believe it? But esigns.com, people, if you ever want to order banners, that's great for your event. That's one of the few costs that we have in advertising. But esigns.com, you can't beat it. Okay, flyers and yard signs. The first year, there are 8,000 students in Marion County. We sent out 8,000 flyers. We had people graciously, somebody ran 500 here, 500 there, and we ran those out. I'm not sure that was worth it, and I'll tell you why here in a minute when you see how many came to the first expo and how many came to the second one. But yard signs, if you're desperate, we took our yard signs last year, spray painted them and used them over again this year because, like I said, you go with the budget you've got. And posters, I want to show you, we were fortunate enough that our health department in Marion County, I tell people, we think big in Marion County. This was a poster they made for us. And this went up at the clinic in Fairmont, Fairmont General Hospital, put them on the walls in every one of their elevators. We were fortunate that they did this for us for free. So radio, who can afford to advertise on radio? But you know what? There's talk shows that'll take you on radio talk shows for free, and you can talk about your event. We did this year. Our county commission gave us money, and we did spend our money on all of it went toward advertising, and we did advertise on the radio this year. And I have to tell you that it probably was not worth it. I'm not sure it was worth it. Our committee will discuss that when they meet again, but we hand out survey cards at the end of the expo and say, how'd you hear about this? And only 2 people said radio. You know, that's what's important about your location. You know, in Fairmont, we moved to the Middletown Mall because we outgrew the church, and quite frankly, it became a fire hazard. You're going to have the fire department there. You can't have a fire hazard. I couldn't embarrass the council of churches and have them shut down this expo. So the Middletown Mall graciously gave us the mall for free, which suited our budget perfect. But where do people go? That's how important location is. Where do people in Fairmont go on Saturday? To Walmart. To get to Walmart, you got to go past the Middletown Mall. There's not a lot there at the mall anymore, but you got to go past it to get to Walmart. And we made sure we put those big fire trucks were out there. Even I get excited seeing fire trucks. I can see why the kids do. The big fire trucks were out there, the rescue squad, the cast iron cookers, the Boy Scouts. We had lots of things going on out there that drew people's attention, that got them over there. You know, good old word of mouth gets the word out. That's always free. You know, just we tell people, tell your families, everybody, your friends. We were fortunate enough this year that we were part of the America's Prepare-a-thon, and we did register this event, and we had a female representative call us that was a help that put it on their website. They contacted the Chamber of Commerce and certain businesses in Fairmont, and they came the day before and met with businesses and taught preparedness to these businesses, so we were fortunate there. Now, I just want to point out that here's how important your promotion. If you can't promote or advertise your event, you might as well not have it if people aren't going to know it's going to happen. Our first year when we had it at our church, we had a little over 100 people. Now, I have to tell you, I was disappointed, but don't get discouraged your first year. This year, we had 800 people. So you can see how much better it was. And that's not including probably the 150 people that we had that were participants that were with the exhibits. You know, 52 exhibits, but there were 2 or 3 people, and so we had over 150 people participating. That's the importance of your advertising and your promotion. Look how that went up the second year, and there are ways, and I want to let you know that you can advertise your event for free. Your exhibit and vendors, the number 3, most important thing, we had great, can you go to the exhibitors? If you would like to get on, if you want to have this event in your community, if you want to get on preparedwv.com, that's also on the paper I gave you. You can see, here's a list of the vendors if you want ideas about who you could have. I mean, our health department was there giving flu shots. CERT was there. I've heard several people mention CERT. You know, that was new to me. Most people here didn't even know that existed, didn't even know what it was. So they had a great display and were there. And that will give you an idea if you're interested in having one. I'm not going to go through them, but there were lots of them there. So our first year, we just tried to cover survival needs. You know, my suggestion to you is that we might have overachieved. Maybe it's wise just to do a 72-hour preparedness thing, teach people how to do those kits. You know, preparedness can be overwhelming. It is. People, number 1, don't know how to get started, and number 2, think they can't afford it. So, you know, you can really overwhelm people, and I hope we didn't do that the first year. But my suggestion to you is if you don't want to get, and you want to do the KISS principle, then just try to have something to teach your communities about 72-hour preparedness kits. The second year, we did expand a little bit more. As you can see, we had 52 exhibits from the 27, but we had people that kept calling us and wanting to participate in it, and it's hard for me to say no. Well, especially if it's about preparedness. I just want to say that we made it more entertaining. Our survey cards told us that people didn't think we had enough for kids. You know, you think this is an adult activity, but you have to, adults have children. So we had, you know, we had the FBI there taking fingerprints. Homeland Security had the little, Sparky and Pumper and Patches, and that entertained kids. And we had a youth activity booths where children learned how to react during fires and got a little fireman's hat. And they did a scavenger hunt. You have to do something, even though it's adult activity, for their children. And I just want to say, sweetie, if you want to go ahead and put it on the pictures, you can. Just in closing, I just want to tell you that, you know, the big draw is that everything's free. This was free admission to people. It was free to the exhibitors. People said, well, you know, if you charge these people, charge them a little bit to set up a table. I'm sorry, I could not do that. This, maybe if someone's selling something, and the first year we didn't have vendors because the church did not allow us to sell out of the church. The second year we did have vendors. Now, maybe I wouldn't have heartburn if you've got a business and you're going to come and sell something. But I can't even do that. These people that come to this, it's only 5 hours on Saturday, but this is community service that they're donating to their community. And I'll just be darned if I'm going to charge them for it. I just can't do that. If you go on preparedwv.com, if you want to have your, if you're interested in having one, or you can email me at my email's on that sheet too, wvsouls@yahoo.com. I just want to encourage all of you. I realize all of you, this is your jobs, most of it, and you may not have time for this, but you may know someone in your community that does have the time to this. I was a full-time federal employee the first time I did it, and I found time to do it. If you can find someone in your community, perhaps, that would do this, get your county and local officials involved in this. You know, don't be discouraged. I was discouraged the first year and almost didn't want to have it the second year. But you know what we said when we started, we said we'll give it 3 years. If it doesn't take off by the 3rd year, we'll know Marion County's not interested in this. So we did do that. And when you get your exhibits and your people, remember to follow up with communications. Don't invite someone to be in this expo in February and not talk to them again until August or September. You got to keep it up here. You have to help them remember that they have committed to this. And even if it's just a reminder and the date of the expo. And that's basically, I mean, we have a little Q&A if you have any questions. I can answer some, but I'd just like to encourage each of you, if you would like to have one in your community, you can always email me or go onto our website and get ideas. Okay? Any questions?